So everybody, I just wanted to introduce you to Karl. Karl, I don't even know how to say your last name. I feel horrible about that.
It's Warkovsky.
Workowski. So Karl is the guy that got me into black soldier flies. It was if it's been a while now. We were at a farm conference and he had a table next to ours and was carrying around this big giant tub. I think he was doing that honestly as like a publicity kind of thing. It was brilliant marketing, really, is what it was. But so of course we had to have one because when you have a farm, you have rotting animals or rotting all kinds of stuff, and that's a great way to take care of it. So just wanted to get Karl on here and get a little bit more about what all is involved with black soldier fly bins, and kind of learn a little bit more about Karl and how you got started also. So Karl, I think that's a great place to start, is just kind of like, what's your background and what got you into black soldier flies?
Sure. My background is a biology degree from University of California, Irvine. It did not have emphasis on any particular species or, I guess, classification like entomology. But the job that I got hired for back in 2007 through Robert and Paul Olivier made me focus primarily on the insect. And the insect in question is obviously Hermetia lucens, which is the black soldier fly, which is a native species here in the southeast. Order Diptera, which is the order of flies. The difference between this species and all the other flies you see around is it's not a vector, so there's not a lot of pathogens associated with it. Found out as time went on that they do evolve with some type of flower pollination, and my guess is they're going for the liquids and the nectars, and they do drink like sugar waters for energy. Don't eat per se, so there's not feeding, but there is drinking, and drinks that they take could have maybe some carbohydrate energy in them.
Okay.
So, and that makes sense. But for the most part, they don't feed as adults. I tell people that just jump head in first, and you're going to have a blast.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to admit, the first time your colony sort of took off was an amazing thing.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's definitely rewarding. I think black soldier fly cultivation is as rewarding as beekeeping,
I mean, yeah,
without the
you
stings.
don't get the honey that you get from, but you do get a liquid. I mean,
You
yeah.
do get the liquid, and I've had this eccentric gardener in Texas that used the liquids for his prize peppers.
What about black soldier fly growing versus compost pile? Do you do both? Do you think there's a place?
Absolutely. This is just a complement to what you should be doing now for composting. We have a three system at my residence, and we have different ages of compost in those each attached bins. What is primarily going in my compost pile is yard debris, grass clipping, shrubbery, maybe some other materials that I know the black soldier fly won't eat, like lignin, high ligninous material, maybe hemicellulose, that they just don't have interest in because they don't have the digestive enzymes to break those down. I don't want to put those in the pod because it's not going to get eaten. Microbes will eventually break it down, but I'm not interested in having this be a compost bin. I'm interested in being a digester for food waste. So absolutely have a compost bin associated with your pod. Paper towels, maybe some other types of cotton waste that you just don't want to discard into the landfill. If you know it's biodegradable, put it in your compost bin. Just don't put it in the grub bin. I limit the grub bin to things that you and I eat,
I got you. Okay.
even though there may be a couple other things that I add that are different, such as pet waste. I don't eat that, and neither do you. Um,
Right.
Coffee
You put
grounds,
you put pet waste in the
I
bin?
put pet waste in.
Okay.
Coffee grounds, carcasses,
Yeah.
brewery waste, brewer's mash.
Yeah.
Also, if I have, let's say, decided not to cook, and I went and got a rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
Delectable rotisserie chickens with all those bones. I just dump the whole thing in. The bones,
Another question I get a lot is why don't you see the grubs in the compost pile versus just in the bin?
you will if you add food waste to your compost pile.
Okay.
If you just have yard waste, they don't really have interest in heavy lignin material.
Okay. What about like a homemade? I know you have your own type, but if someone's like, I don't want to do that. I want to try something small to get started. What's your best homemade option you've seen?
To tell you the truth, I've seen everything from wood, and I always warn people, don't use pressure treated because it's toxic.
Right.
And unfortunately, you have to go with regular wood. It decomposes and breaks down really quickly.
Right.
The acidity of the digestive enzymes. That being said, I've seen a lot of units that are wood, and I've seen some units that are plastic components that are kind of off the shelf bins and ramps and stuff like that. People just come up with a mechanism to house them. No matter what I tell people to just make sure you watch the toxicity of the material, make sure you monitor the temperatures, and probably keep it in the shade. Watch the moisture level, make sure there's drainage. Diverting all this waste from the landfill, which just goes and decomposes anaerobically, forming methane, which doesn't really help the climate. So that's another attribute of composting and digesting your food waste. It's a really good offset from the landfill.
I mean, I'd love to see like that in the back of restaurants. I mean, to me, it makes sense to have one of those next to every dumpster.
I would just like to see healthy foods at restaurant. Let's start with that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Oh, okay. One last thing, and then I feel like we've pretty much covered it all. Can you break down the kind of the nutrient level of a grub? Like, why are we taking these grubs and feeding them to poultry, or what's the breakdown there?
Well, the breakdown is what is it? 35% protein, even though that might not all be biologically accessible, and then 40% fat and 5% calcium by weight, which is great for layers. Do I have those statistics right? Because remember, I'm older.
That's okay. As long as you get it rough, it's not nobody's.
It's all online. Just go find it.
Yeah.
But I would say it's a very concentrated, nutritious morsel of just yummy stuff, and it ends up becoming like cocaine. My chickens like me because of the grubs. And they listen because of grubs. So in that respect, I mean, they're much more managed, I found, because they associate me with grubs. I've noticed that we've had an uptick in the interest in Europe with our technology, and people seem to be buying them for entomophagy, which is human consumption of insects. We don't recommend doing that because we have no knowledge of where the food waste is coming from or if it's infected with disease materials or whatever. So I don't recommend doing that food waste. But the ones that are sold in Europe, they're producing them with food grade feedstock. They're producing the grubs with other material. But the fact that is happening, I think, is a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
That hasn't really happened here in the U.S., but I think it's going to pretty soon. If you've not tasted them, I highly recommend cooking some up. Don't eat them raw, and you will be so surprised how good they are.
All right. So how do you cook them?
Just saute them.
Just saute them in butter?
First of all, cardboard tastes good sauteed in butter.
That's true.
Of course, these are going to taste good in butter. I would just add garlic too, and then I would say in a stir fry is the best bet. A little bit of cabbage, maybe some peppers too, and you're going to find it a very satisfying taste.